What's good, everyone? This is the All Facts podcast here, and we haven't had an episode for about a year now, but now we're gonna start getting content going. And today's episode will actually be more about data science, what it means to be one, how can they contribute to the future. And I have my friend Will here, who is a data scientist himself, and this actually will start a new series called The Future of the World. That's the name for it now. Maybe we'll change later, but that's how we'll start it off. And
Great,
Will,
man.
care to introduce?
Yeah, for sure. So like Harris said, I'm Will. I've been a data scientist for the last year and a half. I went to the University of Guelph, so actually just graduated from that. I was in mathematical economics. Just really love computers, to be honest, and I've always been like a big tech person. So yeah, that's kind of what got my AI journey started, and that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, to start off, were you like did say data scientist? Was this something you'd always just thought about that you were like kind of just wanting to go into, or did it just kind of happen? You're just, oh, maybe I like this.
Yeah, it was kind of a mix of both, to be honest. Like I think when I was like 12 or 13, I really found that I liked analytics. Like I would watch like sports and I'd be like, oh, like they have the stats for this guy and like this guy's doing better than this guy. And I was like, I just love this stuff. Like I think it's so cool that there's all these numbers in the world. And then my mom kind of gave me a little bit of a shove and pushed me into math. And when I was in my second year of university, I learned a little bit about data science, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I would say like well, from watching anything, when you watch the stats, and it kind of just intrigues you because like even you've seen movies like Moneyball and uh
Moneyball's
like even
amazing.
books. Yeah, Atomic Habits too, like those books. It shows as a very high statistical analysis, very statistical analysis heavy on their aspects, and whether it was related to sports and even habit building itself. So the fact that it's kind of like a jack of all trades, statistics falls into everything.
Totally,
Hmm.
man.
All right, so actually, so the fact that you are a data scientist, I was gonna ask you for you to explain what is a data scientist, but first we're gonna have a stop from my friends here at ChatGPT, and I
Nice.
asked it to define a data scientist, and I said in simple terms because I asked it like to define one, and it gave me like a very long paragraph, but let's just say in simple terms. And what ChatGPT says is a data scientist is like a detective for data. They use their skills and tools to find valuable information hidden in large amounts of data. This information helps businesses and organizations make smarter decisions and solve problems effectively. So I'd like to ask you, how does your job tie to that very well?
No, for sure, man. That's a really interesting a summarization of it because that is basically true, right? Like, I think one interesting thing that I found in the data science career is that a lot of people get it mixed up with like doing data engineering, which is a whole it's a part of it, right? Like when you're getting exposed to data, there's a lot of things that go along with it, but the biggest part of data science is that you're basically looking for the hidden gems of information, or the hidden value, as we call it, to kind of grow and expand the horizons of a business, right? Like you're basically using those analytics that I talked about to exploit things that not everybody can see because they don't necessarily understand the numbers the same way.
Yeah, so what do you specifically do for your job? So for your
Kind of
company, yeah, because I know you work for like a smaller company and maybe their statistical analysis is kind of you kind of have to do everything at this point. So let's because I remember you telling me this a long time ago, but if you care to explain that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I would say, I've worked for a very large company and I've worked for a super small one, and data science kind of has different definitions in both, right? In a much larger corporation, you'd be focused a lot more on just building machine learning models. And for anybody that doesn't really know what that is, it's essentially a statistical method for predicting some kind of outcome, right? Like when you build a machine learning model, you essentially have, A, B, C, D, and F or A, B, C, D, and E, and you're trying to predict F based off of those values, right? Whereas, in a smaller company, a data scientist would, be responsible for data visualization, cleaning the data, doing a lot more of the preparing of the data before actually doing the machine learning component of it. So basically, on both sides of the fence, you're responsible for the data entirely and making it work for the people that don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah, so talking about machine learning, so as I look at the progression of the world, of course, ever since the pandemic hit, a lot of people have been moving to like remote jobs and everything has kind of become digitalized. Even school, a lot of our classes are online, right? So
Mhm.
I would say, how would you think to data scientists? Because in my opinion, I think data scientists kind of actually ties into AI. As if it's two peas in a pod. They're literally the same thing. As one progresses, the other one will progress with them. And
Mhm.
now it's since the world is becoming more of AI and AI is getting better exponentially too. It's not like AI a year ago is not the same thing as AI now, right? It's
Not even
completely
close.
different. Yeah, not even close. And I feel like data analysis and science is on that same level as well. So would you kind of agree with me there, or what are your thoughts about AI and data scientists in the future in general?
Yeah, it's actually a really great question. Because I would say, with all the changes that have happened the last year, it's kind of like split data science into like two kind of teams, right? Like you have
Mm.
data science from the last 10 years, which is focused more on machine learning models and getting all of the data ready to predict some sort of value, right? Whereas, in the last 12 months, AI has been like its own entity, right? Like, yes, of course, you have, still data that you use with AI, but as we've seen with ChatGPT, like you don't need, a crap ton of data to put into ChatGPT to make it work. It can work just from, your web browser, right? So and to go back to your point, like yeah, like I would say that they are, as close as you can get in terms of two things that are connected. But they do also have their separate features, right? Like, an AI engineer
Hmm.
focuses
Yep.
more on the actual building of the AI, whereas a data scientist might focus more on cleaning up the data and making it ready for an AI engineer.
Yeah, another thing to add on that, I feel like since artificial intelligence, AI is having a great impact in the world, I feel that it kind of opens the road to data scientists just come in. Like AI will do the all the changes. They'll change the world completely, and data science just come is like, okay, yeah, we need you. Yeah, you can come in. Like it's opening the doors for data scientists, or for data science more. And yeah, the one thing I always think about with artificial intelligence is that now we were talking about how it's completely different now from the previous years. And you see those music artists, they use their voice as data and then they'll use it to like sing another song or even sing another language of another song. The fact that it's already an aspect into that industry, and then now it's going to be more into of course the tech industry, which is making its big jumps, right? And then
Mhm.
going into, well, like, of course, what you're saying, AI engineering. And when you kind of look at everything, every industry there is in the world, so like you talk about finance, you talk about civil, you talk about uh, data science in general, it's all improving with AI. The
Mhm.
fact it's all improving with AI, and now that we have tools such as ChatGPT, and now because ChatGPT is on the rise, there's going to be more platforms. Cough, cough, probably going to be Google, Face, Meta, like have their own sources of like ChatGPT type of things.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, even ChatGPT's got its background funders, right? Like Microsoft,
Hmm.
Google, all of those people are already in there, but the foundation of what that program is not something that is, unique. Like you can build a ChatGPT, you just need access to the right information and the right data, right? It's more, I was gonna say it's more that they did it on such a large scale, right? Like that model is trained on, I think it's like 600 billion or 500 billion parameters, which is far larger than any
Hmm.
model
Yeah.
trained on. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, so it's actually funny. I've always been seeing these tweets saying that, oh, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he's the next Elon Musk. impact he's had already. Because even ChatGPT, I use it almost every day, and now I don't know how. Like, this is maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I don't know how I was able to live without it. Like when
No,
you
I'm
think
on the
about it
same
that
page.
much,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
no,
you
I
can
mean,
use it for basically anything.
yeah, yeah, you really, I mean, I was listening to a Microsoft event a couple days ago, and the guy that was speaking actually like put it in the best terms I'd ever heard, is that, ChatGPT is basically a general purpose reasoning machine, right? Like, you can ask it anything and it's going to give you some sort of logic and reasoning associated with it. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is, right? And I think that's why people have found so many uses for it, because, you always need something to kind of reason and problem solve with you, right? Like it's just like Googling.
Yeah. Speaking about like the subject matter, so so you are a data scientist yourself. We talked about how AI impacted science and what data science technically do in the source of AI. So how would in the future would you see data science play out? Because for example, if AI is using if many companies are using AI to expand on their projects, do you think they'd always need those data scientists to just like yeah to track the data?
Oh yeah, I mean, it takes a village, to be honest, to build a really good AI entity with any company. I mean, I would know, I've worked with very small companies and very large ones, and a data scientist is slowly becoming just an AI engineer, right?
So
Because
would you say they're at a desperate need of it?
I would say most places are in need of a data scientist. If not now, they're going to need it very soon.
Hmm. Backing up your point of how they're becoming AI engineers. Okay.
Well, because that's kind of the interesting crossroads that we're at, right? Like for most people, they're now getting their first actual experience with, AI as a consumer item, right? Like you go to a website now, and there's a pretty decent chance that you're interacting with a chatbot or an AI at some point on
Hmm.
the back end that you can now recognize based off of what you've seen with ChatGPT, right? And maybe a year ago that wasn't a thing, right? And before it became very commercialized, it was basically in the hands of data scientists. So, as we've kind of progressed in terms of the modeling capabilities and stuff like that, so has the job description of a data scientist, right? Like, I mentioned at the very beginning, it has its data cleaning, its visualization, its analytics, and now the next stage is most data scientists are being involved in prompt engineering and building out
Hmm.
system prompts and stuff like that.
So you know what's crazy? I saw a video like a couple days ago, and it was about this family. They were always posting about like their lives on the internet, and
Hmm.
there was this wow, what was the right word for it? There was some like privacy leak. There was something that was leaked that like they didn't want to get leaked. And the fact is was that because of AI, and then they was able to take the data from like all their photos of like their kids, like their own, like wherever, whatever they were posting, AI was able to take that their data and it was able to utilize it and to create some sort of its own sort of content. And then that was able to like scam other people. I was able to
Wow.
scam other people so of course we're talking about the positive sides of AI here, and here is kind of like a negative side of AI. And another thing about that story was that the AI literally so they had like parents had a little like had a daughter, she was very little, and they made like an AI version of her, like a digital her when she was older. And the
Whoa.
older person was telling the parents you shouldn't post so much because the fact is they made me as like an adult, and they could mimic me into like scamming your family. They can mimic me into scamming anyone else. They can mimic my face into any different fake IDs that they want.
Hmm.
And or it's just more of a like fraudulent compositions, right? And so I think where data scientists kind of falls into that is I think they're trying to make sure it's a lot of their AI engineering, a lot of these AI aspects are secure and not meant for those fraudulent things.
Absolutely, man. I mean, when I did my data science certificate, we had to do a whole section on responsible AI development, right? Like you need to,
Hmm.
and that's where I think it's a very interesting place that we're at in society because, AI has become so commercialized that like, you don't have to have any data science background. You can go online and Google how to build your own chat GPT and you can probably do it. Like it doesn't take that much work,
Hmm.
right? And that's opened the door for a lot of people that are using it for nefarious reasons to use it for nefarious reasons, right? Without that kind of training. So, that's the biggest thing that I would say is the challenge still for data scientists is to promote like ethical uses of it, right? Because, prior to
Yes.
the last year, there wasn't any AI that was going to destroy anything. It was just making predictions and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything that was super dangerous. Whereas now it can fully impersonate people, and that's something that data scientists and just people in general need to keep aware of, right? You need to have some sort of ethical background when you're using these tools.
In the All Facts newsletters I've been writing recently, one of the main things I saw, like one of the main things I wrote about was that the the man that was known as the godfather of AI, known as Jeffrey Hinton or Hilton, so, regarding his name, he actually left Microsoft, and he was like a big he was one of their biggest employees, and he left Microsoft because of the dangers of AI. He thought AI was becoming so dangerous. He wanted to leave that environment and then try to make something of his own so that it could be of ethical use.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that's what he's doing now. Because I remember when one of my friends was at this tech conference in Collision. He told me that
Oh,
he had this talk. Jeffrey Hinton had the talk about ethical use of AI.
nice. Yeah. No, I think that's something that I've heard about at Google as well. And, I think the one thing I would say from at least personal experience is that yes, these tools can be scary, but it's more the person using it, right? When you have nefarious reasoning or you're using it for the wrong motives, that's what makes it scary, right? Like, there's no AI that is, going to have agency without data, and it's really the person that's controlling the data that's controlling the AI. And so for people that
Yeah.
are handing over bad data or just trying to use it for the wrong reasons, of course you're going to see these tools be used in the wrong kind of ways. It's the same thing with computers and technology for the last 200 years.
Correction, he left Google. I don't know for he
There you
left
go.
Google, not Microsoft. Yeah. He left. Yeah, I think I was thinking of something else there, but yeah, he left Google. So yeah, the fact that you were always saying that of course data science is in a need, and because of the great and negative aspects of or these pros and cons of AI, would you recommend data science to other people? They of course probably say absolutely yes because of what our talk is. But at the same time, if someone were to go up and ask you, like, what would be few tips you'd give them before like actually pursuing the career?
That's a really good question. I would have to say like one, you need to really love numbers, like really love it, because if you don't like statistics, if you can't even fathom the calculating averages or just anything of that nature, you're not going to have fun doing it. Even if AI is like the coolest thing ever, like you need that numbers background, because even stuff like ChatGPT, like that relies on a lot of numbers. You need to know how to set token limits. You need to know how to chunk responses. Like these are all things that require a vast amount of ability to just grind through the understanding of numbers. And so, the biggest thing I would say if I look back the last few years in terms of like what it meant to me in terms of developing a data science, you need to really love the aspect of the data, right? Data is the numbers, and that's what drives all of AI. Like even ChatGPT is trained on a lot of data, and what most people don't think about when they kind of go into it is like what is the reason you're doing this? Because it's not easy, right? You're not gonna
Yeah.
work on an AI, build it, and then just deploy it. And it's super, you just put it together in 5 minutes. Like I've had friends that try to start doing it, they do it for 2 days, and then they're like, no, this is too much work, right? Like just
Hmm.
for me to do something super simple, it's a pain in the butt, right? So I think for anybody that's trying to become a data scientist, you really have to have a reason and a really strong why for utilizing numbers and utilizing data and actually finding the value in it, right? Like I said at the beginning of this, like my story
Hmm.
was that I really love statistics. Like even though I didn't do well in statistics in university, I really liked the idea of just numbers and the value of them, right? Like, I don't know how much baseball you watch, but like a guy having a batting average of 200 versus 300 is a very big deal. Like, and that's just a small
Hmm.
difference in real numbers, right? So that's what I mean is, I think for anybody that wants to get into this stuff, finding the actual value for you in numbers is what makes a successful data scientist.
So your only tip would just be loving numbers, then really.
Loving numbers for the right reasons.
Oh, okay. So in terms of data science itself, would you, oh, are you, do you, of course, you probably love it where you are now working in like the tech industry with as a data scientist, but what other like routes or industries would you like to work in as a data scientist? So you did talk about baseball. Like, would you want to be in the sports industry about that, or would you want to be entertainment? Yeah, it's kind of around that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because I've mainly worked in health and healthcare and health and safety. That's been my main area of expertise, and that's mainly just because that's the industry that I really love. I think outside of that, I think maybe music would be one that I find really great. I've actually had somebody offer me an AI engineering gig for music, like basically designing an algorithm for a DJ, and I thought that was something that was really interesting, right? I mean, I don't think it was going to work out in the long run, but that might be something that, other people find really enjoyable, right? Like you might not necessarily like, health data or finance data, but like they're looking for data scientists in movies. They're looking for data scientists in music. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, what actually got me into data science was Spotify. When I was going on Spotify and reading all of their information and their insights and stuff like that, that's
Oh
all
yeah.
a crap ton of data that they have in their headquarters.
Yeah. That is great. Yeah, that everywhere I keep kind of look as a little data scientist itself, especially so like recently I've been looking like real, of course, real estate, right? And especially in terms like the inflation of how it's gone from like 2000 to 2023 or even 2010 to 2023 is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so enough about data scientists. We've been talking about that for a while, but as of like recent news, like on the tech side of it too, did you see that Elon Musk changed the Twitter logo to just X?
Yeah. No, I actually just found out about that today. And
Yeah,
I
that happened to only today.
oh, it did. Okay, cool.
That either
So,
yesterday. Yeah, it was like recent, like a couple of days ago and stuff. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. So what do you think of it?
So it's actually funny. When I first saw this, I didn't really think much of it. And then what I was talking to like one of my professors today, because you like you know how I work under him, I was working for him, and we were just talking about this, and he said, "Oh, Elon Musk he changed the Twitter handle to just said, oh, it's the battle of the big boys of how he wants to use Twitter as like kind of an everyday app and how it could compete with Meta and like Alphabet, right? And I was just
Mhm.
thinking, yeah, that's probably why he's doing it. He's kind of wants everything to be simple but complicated at the same time. That's a lot of things that he has like SpaceX that has it's very simple concepts. Like, it's very like simple names, but it kind of just does everything in their own aspect. Because Tesla, of course, changed the game. It changed the game for for cars in terms of like electric cars, and then SpaceX is using reusable rockets, and he's trying to do things like Neuralink, and now he has Twitter, and he's trying to make sure that kind of is also in his like brand as well, which he kind of already has, but now that because he's specifically changed the logo itself, like now everyone will know, okay, yeah, this is Elon Musk now. It's not just Twitter's Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, especially because it was so drastic, right? Like I
Yeah.
literally just couldn't believe how big of a an aesthetic change that was, right? Like you go and look up Twitter now and it doesn't even it's so foreign to you, right? And I think that's just a reflection of the direction that it's headed in terms of what he's using it for, right? Like, you talked about it being like an everyday app. Like if it's something that Elon Musk tries to turn into, an omni solution, like, of course there's the benefits of that. I think everybody would love if they had, just one place to get all of their information, their social media, just everything, right? But I think we also forget that when everything's in one bucket, that bucket is a lot easier to control. And most people
Hmm.
don't realize the value that there is in using like a bunch of different services, right? Like, you get to actually compare, you get to have competition in a market, right? If Twitter or whatever it's called now becomes like the ultimate app that has everything together, like basically
Yes.
everybody relies on that for everything. And
It
that's
would
a very
become a monopoly at that point.
exactly.
It
Monopolies
would
are
become a
not a
monopoly at
good
that
thing.
point. Oh, you mean Rogers and Bell are kind of a duopoly in this case, but that's different. So
And look at that.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing, but it is a very complicated thing to have.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know. I would say it's definitely something that is better to not have. And if it does happen, it can have its value. But
This is showing how you're a mathematical economics major because they always talk about how monopolies are not it.
no, because they really ain't, man. That's economics 101. You don't want no
That's
competition.
statistics for you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want no competition in the market. That's bad news.
So you necessarily would so would you still use those like at Twitter in that case?
No, I haven't used Twitter in 4 years, 5 years now. I
Oh
I was
really? Oh,
yeah.
I'm honestly on it like a lot of the times. Even when Threads came out, like I used Threads for like a little bit, like for
Mhm.
like the first week, and then I don't know, I just went back to Twitter. I was just still on Twitter. Because I don't really because Threads wasn't really it was just okay. It's kind of just the same people I see on Instagram, like on Threads too, but not a lot of people I know were just like posting a lot, right? So I was just like, okay, I can see the same thing on Instagram. So that's why I didn't really use Threads that much. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't used it either. The one thing I would say is
Oh,
I'm not
really?
surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised that that's your opinion because, I think, the software side of me in terms of building applications, like the first time an app comes out, nobody's really going to use it, right? It's not groundbreaking. Even Thread, which was backed up by Mark Zuckerberg and stuff, like, people go on a new application and it takes them a long time to get used to it, right? Like think about, you might have got Twitter 10 years ago, but when did you actually start using it on a regular basis? Probably after that fact, right? And it's the same thing with new applications, right? Like you see new games come out or you see new phones
Mhm.
come out, like there's not an immediate like everybody buys it, right? It's just not practical.
Yeah. However, my thoughts are just kind of avoid social media altogether, or maybe use it a minimal. Of course, like that's very cliche, but at the same time, it's very true. Because back to the AI example I brought, as like the parents were posting their lives on social media, as kind of became a negative part for them, and it kind of bit them in the back, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful with it.
So, yeah, so closing thought, dude. We're about to close it off here. So, Will, do you have anything to say to close it off?
I would just say for anybody watching, one, if you are actually interested in a data science career, definitely hit me up. I'm happy to have that conversation any day of the week. Also thank you to Harris for having me on. This has been so much fun and I love talking with you, man. It's always a blast and getting to talk about, really cool stuff like this is always super fun. And, just to kind of say my P's and Q's, like if data science isn't your thing, that's okay. You're gonna find something that is, and as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, you're never gonna not want to do it.
Hmm. All right, yeah. So this is the end of the episode. If you were listening or watching, please share it and everything's good for you. I hope you have a great time. I hope you have a great day. And this is the All Facts Podcast. I'm Horace Vikar, and I'm out.